It's the most dangerous time of the year. Wait, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Isn't that supposed to say the most wonderful time of the year? Well, yes, but the holidays can be a minefield, especially if you're a recovering people pleaser. But really, the holidays can come for any of us. Yeah, they can highlight family dysfunction, maybe perceived shortcomings in ourselves or things that are absent in our lives. They can bring up complicated emotions that are hard to navigate, old painful memories, and sometimes even more recent painful memories, but just painful memories in general. When it comes to the holidays, there are just so many things that can be triggers. So yeah, it can feel like a minefield. But the three most common are family, food, and finances. Now, if you think about that for a second, it matches up with just some of our most common causes of pain and woundedness in general. That's not a coincidence. The holidays are kind of be, or can be, kind of like throwing gas on a fire. Just whew, everything is exacerbated. Take my family's former Thanksgiving tradition, for example. Now, it started with my grandparents and their 8 children, plus the families of those children. And it was always, always a huge gathering, even when it was just those 8 siblings, their spouses, sometimes ex-spouses, their children, and then their children's spouses, and sometimes their children's ex-spouses, and grands and great-grands and in-laws and outlaws and ex-laws. Oh my. Yeah. I mean, by the time I was a teenager, we usually had 80 to 100 people for Thanksgiving. And these were all relatively close family members who just didn't see each other very often. And sometimes the only, excuse me, the only thing we really had in common was we were related. And some of us, we didn't know each other well enough to know what else we might have in common. Everybody cooked, everybody, men, women, children, everybody cooked. Now, it wasn't a competition. We were all bringing our old favorites that everyone wanted or new things or whatever. And yet it kind of was, there was a little bit of competition in there just because we're all foodies. And we all just, we just all threw our normal eating habits to the wind and indulged for 3 days. We feasted and we talked and we laughed and we cried and we caught up and gossiped and we argued about the Florida State football game. You could sell tickets to watch my family watch the football game. It was hilarious. And there was a lot of this. For most of us, it also added up to an expensive holiday. There was the travel, the food we brought, taking time off from work, plus the emotional expense, the emotional toll. And it was a lot. And it was loud and it was hectic and there was very little privacy and there was just not a lot of space to get off by yourself for just a little bit of quiet. Now, I loved every minute of it, and I don't even do football, but I grew up with it. It was familiar to me. It was normal and natural. And yeah, I loved it. But my husband, he hated it. For him, it was every kind of overload imaginable. All families, all families have dynamics and undercurrents. That's normal and natural part of being in relationship with other humans. But if you come from a dysfunctional family or a huge one, or maybe one that, or maybe especially one that looks perfect on the outside but has some rumblings on the inside, all of those currents, those undercurrents, are likely to rise up to the surface during the holidays. Now, food can be dangerous in several ways. There's the typical wealth of treats everywhere you turn, and you want to indulge in them all, and you don't want to say no to anybody, and you really want to indulge in all of them anyway, and then you beat yourself up. Or maybe you don't like to try new things, but you're expected to, and you don't want to disappoint anyone, but you don't really like trying new things, and you can feel the anxiety and tension building up in you. Or maybe this is the year that you don't get invited to anything, and none of the kids are coming home. I mean, none of ours are coming home this year, and oh man, I really had some feelings to deal with. But what if you go into a cooking frenzy anyway? Because you love to cook and you love cooking the things you usually cook. And then you eat it all to comfort yourself because your regular traditions aren't happening. Yeah, this place is a minefield, these holidays. And last but not least, finances. Overspending on travel or food or gifts. Maybe you're traveling for Christmas or perfect decorations or meeting everyone's expectations. All of it. And it's a lot. And all of that goes right back to family, food, and finances. Can there be other things? Sure. But those are a lot of the biggies fall in those baskets when it comes to the holidays. And all holidays, or the holidays, I mean, we've got this whole season of holidays. They're guaranteed to ramp up our anxiety, even under the best of circumstances. Anxiety comes from uncertainty or for, feeling like we're not ready, which can also be an uncertainty. But we're not certain how things are going to go, and we don't feel ready, or we got the kids coming and we haven't finished decorating or cooking or whatever. There's so much anxiety, and there's so much uncertainty, and there's so much pressure. Well, all of those things can be triggers on an average day with your regular routine. So just imagine what happens when you throw the holidays into the mix. Give yourself some space and grace. That's not trite. And we'll say, oh, yeah, I'll give myself some space and grace. Yeah, I know that's going to happen. Yeah is not really taking it on board. It's not really owning it. It's not really taking it inside. Big difference. Big difference. When we give ourselves space and grace from the inside out, it changes the way we experience the holidays. It changes everyday life too, but it can certainly change the way we experience the holidays. Because most of us feel like we have less time, we have more responsibility, and we have more expectations to meet. So if we're already anxious and we feel like we don't have the time or the energy or whatever for space and grace, that's just going to ramp up the anxiety and put more landmines in that minefield of the holiday season. Family conflicts, again, normal and natural, humans interacting. Financial stress. Even if you can afford whatever you need to afford, it's not your normal spending. It doesn't really matter if you have plenty of money. It's outside the norm. And that itself can be stressful. We change our eating habits and our eating schedule. And that can affect our energy, our physical energy, our emotional energy, even our mental energy. We can overcommit. That one's really easy to do. It becomes so hard to say no. and we end up overcommitted. And then we don't rest. And then we eat on the fly. And then we still want all the treats. And then we're irritable because we're not rested. And then you've got dynamics with other people, whether or not they're family. The social pressures, the strained relationships. For some of us, the winter darkness is a factor. And for some of us, we're spending the holidays alone. And if that's not what you really want to do, so do. But if that's not what you want, that's a source of anxiety. And it can be just as anxiety building as spending it with too many people. If you're also a recovering people pleaser, like me, which is also really common if there's any kind of dysfunction in your family, and that's most of us, really. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Okay. How much time and energy do you spend as a human buffer, as a human sacrifice between warring relatives? How much? Do you feel like you have to referee? Or do you just feel the anxiety of their war, like kind of infecting everything? Let me ask you another one. How much of your holiday is spent on hyper vigilant, high alert? Don't want to do this with Aunt Katie, and don't want to do that with Cousin Bob. And now, and there's this constant hyper vigilant, high alert. Your holiday pleasure just gets gobbled up by walking on eggshells. To the point where holiday and pleasure may not be words that coexist peacefully, friendly for you. But there are several things you can do. Now, like I said, with our family reunion, it's hard to get privacy or find somewhere to be quiet. But I can tell you 2 ways to do it. Take little, where you can go to get little 5 or 10 minute breaks. And that's all you need. You can just space them throughout the day. And that will help tremendously. My favorite is to go to the bathroom. Just close the door, lock it, 5 or 10 minutes. Nobody's going to question that, especially if there's a food overload. But just go to the bathroom or, run out to the car for a minute. I need to run out to the car for a minute. Use your tools. Use your tools. Tapping, breathing, even just a few minutes of meditative mindfulness. Just close your eyes, breathe, and just, the mindfulness, focus in right here. I'm with me now. I'm here with me now. If something is upset or riled you, tap it out, scream it, yell it. I can't tell you how many times I've silent screamed. That's fine. The tapping helps you get it up and out. The breathing and quiet meditative moment helps you soothe and calm in the moment. Both are helpful. Give yourself these little mini resets throughout the day or throughout the visit, or whatever it takes. You can do these with only a couple minutes, but if you do them throughout the day or throughout the visit, you can keep yourself feeling more balanced and more resilient, less triggered, and less prone to fall into the people-pleasing traps, because they are multiple. They can be multiple. But here's the biggie. If you do one thing for yourself, do this. Do this. Fire yourself. Fire yourself as the mood manager. You're not the ringmaster for this circus. your need to both control and to please is what's really getting triggered. You're in charge of that. Fire yourself. You're not the ringmaster. You're not the mood manager. Nobody, especially you, is going to enjoy or appreciate you trying to control everything. They're going to get mad at you if you're being the ringmaster. And even if they subconsciously expect you to be the mood manager, it's still going to make them mad. Nobody's happy. Fire yourself. Fire yourself as the mood manager. Because you know what? You deserve better. But so does your family and your friends. They deserve you. And being a mood manager is not your job. It's not. So let's actually wrap up on a really quick little story shift. Okay. So here's your old story. The one that's been turning the holidays into a minefield. The one that's been setting you up to get triggered during the holidays, any old time, but especially during the holidays. Okay? Old story. It's my job to keep the peace and make sure everyone else has a nice time, even if I have to sacrifice myself. That's my job. To look out for everyone else. And to walk on eggshells so nobody gets offended. It's my job to keep the peace and make sure everyone else has the nice time. Old story. Okay? New story. It's not my job to keep the peace. It's my job to look out for my own peace and let them take care of theirs. Let them take care of theirs. And that way, the holidays can stop feeling like a minefield to you and finally start feeling like something to truly enjoy. So the moral of this story, change your story, change your life. Happy holidays.